I'd like to call this meeting to order, and at this time I'd like to ask Mr. Edison to please lead us in our prayer and our pledge.
Father, just thank you, Lord, for your grace and mercy. Just thank you, Lord, for another day. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunities that you blessed us with here, Lord, to help us. We ask, Lord, that you help us and guide us and direct us in the decisions that we make, Lord, to lead the school district and the schools for our children. Lord, just give us wisdom as we go throughout the past and the things that we do. We're very much protection, Lord, as we're going through some scary times in our nation, and we just lift you up, ask that you bless us and keep us all safe. That's in Jesus' name.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Edison. At this time, has everyone looked over our agenda? I have a motion on a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Motion passes. Thank you. We would like to welcome everyone here. Looks like we've got a great group, and we're all thankful that you're here and came to our school board meeting. I'd like to ask everyone to please silence their cell phones so that we can conduct our business tonight. And if anyone is here as a visitor or guest that would like to address the board with a non-agenda item, you're welcome to come up and to the podium and address the board this time.
Good evening, Superintendent Edison, board members. My name is Alice Moyer, and I am chairperson for the Ernest A. Hale Memorial Wall Project that's going on in Chiefland at this time. And I'm here tonight to let you know about it. The wall will be at Wood Park, and the unveiling will be May the 30th, 2020. The Ernest A. Hale Memorial Wall will be a reminder of the legacy of a great man who lived in our community for 50 years, over 50 years. He is first and best known as principal of Chiefland Junior High School from 1957 to 1964. Chiefland Junior High School was a segregated school for blacks in Chiefland before integration. Its location is in the exact spot where Wood Park is located at this time. Chiefland Junior High School was destroyed by fire in 1964, and Ernest A. Hale continued his career in education as vice principal of Chiefland High School in Chiefland, Florida. Following his death in May of 2014, I knew that something needed to be done to remind us of this wonderful man. He was a powerful educator. 5 years later, I came up with the idea of a memorial wall at the very spot he began his career in Chiefland, Florida, at Wood Park. The Ernest A. Hale Memorial Committee met for the first time in June of 2019, and we dedicated our lives to a year to this project, with the unveiling of the wall to be May the 30th, 2020. The committee members include myself, Robert Williams, Johnny Phillips, Jerry Battles, and the late great Jay Young. The wall will be about 5 feet tall, sitting on a cement floor, about 12 by 10 cement, and a cement bench in front of it. During the site meeting on September the 12th with the City of Chiefland, City Manager Mary Elsie and Shane, to discuss the location where the wall would be suitable, it was agreed that the wall would be located to level the entrance between the new pavilion and the outside facilities, about 30 feet from the chain link fence. The wall would be facing Wood Park. The wall will be built with simple blocks. Then red brick blocks will be added to the wall with the names of former students of Chiefland Junior High, former teachers, former staff members of the school, admirers, co-workers, and fans of Ernest A. Hale. Of course, the red bricks come cost $40. I looked it up. On October the 28th, the City of Chiefland approved this project, and we are in the beginning stages of building this wall. We have several donations from the community, which includes the cement foundation and the cinder blocks. Now it's time to add the red bricks. And the red bricks, of course, will have names of students, teachers, staff, admirers, supporters, all of this awesome name. Included in your packet that I placed in front of you tonight, you have a buy a brick program that where you can order or add a brick to our wall. And we will enjoy your support in celebrating this great thing. At the bottom of the order form is my name and cell phone number. You can call or text me at any time, or provided you with a return envelope where you can mail those orders to me. Anyone interested in ordering a brick, I'll just place these over on the table over there, and you're welcome to take them and enjoy this celebration with us.
I think that's great, and a great honor, and I think it'll be terrific and wonderful down at Bowie Park and everything. So I think it's a great thing, and thank you for the work you're doing with that committee.
And Ms. Hale was a long-time board member.
Oh, his wife, yes. She was a long time, his wife was on the board for I don't know how many years, Miss Julia Hale.
And I had the honor to follow her, so I'm thrilled about that as well. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? If not, I would like to ask Mr. Wilson from Bronson Middle High School for his presentation and come up in gaming simulation and programming.
Thank you, Superintendent Edison and the board for inviting us here. If I get this up here for a second. One of the things I came here when I first started teaching here, started the business program. I saw kind of like the writing on the wall in terms of computer science for the last 2 years or so. So, and a lot of my program was based on students like this, who weren't in my class, they were actually using my classroom for another class. But I saw their interests and stuff like that, and I really wanted to get into computer science and do video games, because it seems like if you go to our school, a lot of kids you talk to, especially in middle school now, it's like, anything you talk about is video games and simulation. They don't understand all the work that goes behind that. And it goes beyond just having fun. It's a lot of work. So what I did, I brought a couple of my students. I have Jared Mongi, Cresto, I have Austin Strickland, and Timothy Snyder. For the last 2 years, they have placed first in our FBLA competitions for computer gaming and simulation. So, and they'll be going to state. We're going to state this week. We'll be going to state, and they will be competing again at the state level.
Where will you be going for state? Where will you be going for that?
Orlando. So one of the requirements, of course, when we do this, we have to put the game online. So I wanted them to come up here and talk more about the game, about the counties I went into, and how much work and effort went into the System 3. So if y'all want to come up here.
I think to begin with, I'm going to have to bring us to how we built our first game. So our first game, back in last year, we created, it's honestly nothing compared to this. This we're very proud of. Our last game we're proud of as well, but it was very crude. But it was our first year. And we were happy to take that chance with Mr. Wilson to be able to create our first game and to actually compete at any level, because at first we were happy but slightly reluctant, because it's actually working hard to building a game and it seemed very complicated. But as we got into it and went further into lessons that he was teaching us, we learned that it was a little bit easier, was actually not that, we shouldn't have been that scared. So we started to work hard and work towards a goal, and eventually we created our first ever game, which, to be honest, was very crude. But we were happy at the time because it was our first game, and to us it seemed so amazing, and it was the memories that we put into creating that game is just, I like to think that. Sorry if I'm jittery, it's just, I'm nervous. My first game. But yeah.
You would have never known.
Yeah, but in our first game, I was the animator. He, as always, is the team leader, and you were creating the backgrounds and landscape. It was very fun at first, but after the first year, after we got a taste for what it was truly like, going into the second year, we already know, we pretty much almost knew exactly what we wanted to do, since we already had the rules and the layout of what we needed to do.
Okay, so to start it off, we went back to Wilson's first classroom and just the things that he gave us, the games that we had to make for his class that were very easy, and then we wanted to bump up the level. So this game, we wanted to go a whole lot better, and we wanted to stick with the classical design though of pixels because it's easier and it looks really good in my opinion. And when we were making this, we were just trying to remember all the codes and stuff like that. We had each our own jobs again, animator, coding, and making sure everyone's doing their part, and then we had the landscapes and backgrounds over here. And yeah.
So basically, like in Wilson's classroom when we first started out, it was everybody building their own game through what Wilson was doing, but me, TJ, and Monty kind of split off when we started FBLA, and we were doing our own thing. We began to just, go ahead of everyone, and we were implementing stuff that people hadn't even got to, and so we just used a lot of teamwork, and then we implemented everything that Wilson has ever taught us, and everything that he showed us, and
Change some of the games and some things up and on. So that's the guy falling in the little portal.
Yeah. So the game is called The American Dream, and we made a bit of a cutscene here. Slide cutscene, but yeah. All of these were done a combination of all three of us animating. All music was a combination of just what we liked, what sounds good. So the reason you see him walking now is because he went into the portal once he walked into the work, and there's a whole 4-level story behind this game. And we have the enemies, each with their own specific thing. This game is hard, by the way. And of course an attack, which is the throwing a pencil. We wanted everything to be featured, at least business related, except for the enemies. We wanted to allow to be whatever because it's a whole new world. And each have different things that we learned from Wilson's classroom, like random options and gradually get more difficult with this and more people around. Then you pass on to the next level. Yeah, the lines up here and everything that we completed the state requirements, and I'm happy with what we came up with, and I'm glad we won the district again, and hopefully win state.
start with a blank canvas, or is there?
Yeah, when it comes to like FBLA, so each year in FBLA, so when you do the game simulation, they have a subject that you have to build it around. So last year they had to base it off on different questions and stuff like that. This year though, they have this thing called Business Achievement Awards that the kids achieve. If you achieve all 4 levels, you actually end up going to nationals, be recognized in nationals. We'll have probably 1 or 2 people recognized in nationals this year because of it. But so the whole point of the game was to say, okay, it has to be related to that Business Achievement Awards. And so they did too. It's like a lot of times when you go do this and you have to apply for these awards, because they give you like several different things you have to do. To do it, you start as a student portal. So they start as a portal pulling it in. The student has their own portal and the advisor has their own portal. And then it's just different companies, like different business things. They have to do presentations. They have to do all kinds of different, to get to those different levels. It takes almost a year. Luckily we have some people that, did pretty good this year on it. That's the great thing about FBLA and stuff like that. Stuff like this, they have over 70-something events for kids, for high school kids. And it varies. It goes to economics, it goes to business, it still goes to computer science, it goes to accounting, all kinds of different things. So, thanks for having us, appreciate it.
Wow.
Can you reintroduce yourself?
My name's Austin Strickland. I basically do the backgrounds and kind of images like that. I kind of just ask what they like and I implement them into the game the way they want them. And so,
Do you do the sounds along with the background?
no, sir. So
That's what's playing in this truck.
That's exactly right.
And you're a junior, correct?
Yes, sir.
My name is Jared Monchi Crespo. I was the main animator. I animated all that you see on the screen, and I chose all of the sounds in the game and the music.
And what grade are you in, Jared?
I'm a junior.
I'm Timothy Snyder. I'm also a junior. I was the team leader with character development and coding and just making sure everything works and everyone does their part.
What grade are you in?
11.
What do you boys want to do for future? Do you want to continue this, or what are your plans?
My biggest plan is to go to college for a bachelor's degree in business administration and hopefully major in marketing or something.
Basically, I want to go to the Air Force and do something with technology, computer, something like that. I haven't really found out yet what I want to do. There's a lot of different things that are out there. So I'll land on something that I like.
I found that I have a love for technology, so I'm trying to find the perfect job for me. I think it would have to be something in the field of IT to help maybe fix computers and such, as that I actually really like to do, so hopefully that.
Come see us at Buckley's.
Sounds great. It's a great program. Are there any other questions?
Gretchen, didn't you tell me that y'all had a little snafu with this, that y'all had to redo some
yeah,
stuff?
Oh, yes. So,
Had a disaster that you.
Yes.
yeah, explain better.
Okay, so I had a bunch of goals and we were breaking all of them before a time, and so I was really good. But then I went to work on it at home because I wanted to, at Christmas break, I wanted to fix a few things. Well, something happened with the flash drive, and everything got corrupt, and so we had to restart again, and so we had to just have I don't know how many, I think there was 8 or so all-nighters just to make sure everything is back to where it should be. And eventually we got back to our goal set, so that's good.
Well, that's one thing you told me after it happened, though, that because that you restarted it, you felt like the game was much better, much more complete?
So our original was, it was good. We didn't have a boss level, and I didn't really want to at first because it was going to be extremely difficult. But eventually, once this happened,
You could show them the boss level, right? This is the one boss level, right?
Yeah.
On the diamond?
Yeah. So this is just to show you the boss level and how he dies and stuff if you want to just go to the end.
Boys, that's not good.
Sorry. There's a bunch of people
It's
who
the
don't
boss
want to.
thing, Mr. McCarthy.
Yeah, we need to worry.
That's up to you to decide.
I see the business administrator piece.
Yeah.
Because I call him, we all call him Stretch because Austin is kind of short, as you can tell. And I don't know you other gentlemen like I do Austin, okay? And I am incredibly proud of Austin. And here's why. And I assume these young men are just like him. Austin is one of the hardest working, best young men I know. I am very proud that he is my son's friend. He was at my house and I told him all about this, and I was just blown away. Because when I was in school, I wasn't in the business class. We had to take it in, I think, the 8th grade, and it was Ms. Hall. We had to learn to type with the thing over our hand, and that was the extent of business class. So it's really blown me away what you were able to do. I also, like I said, Mr. Wilson, I'm incredibly proud of what you've done. Would you mind sharing with us how many kids you are taking to the state competition from Bronson?
Yeah, so, we have 56 kids going to state.
That's pretty spectacular. Another thing that I'm incredibly proud with these young people for this, and this is not FBLA, this is FFA talk, but we have an FFA creed which talks about more power in bargaining, less in begging. These people have worked incredibly hard to raise the money they need to go to their state convention. Not from going out and going, hey, give me some money, but from just pure hard work. And I am incredibly impressed with y'all, and I think we're a great future here. I'm proud of y'all.
Now, is this program in other schools or just Bronson?
In our district, it's only, in our district, we're the only one. I know, like, if you go outside, like, in, like, Marion County, there's, like, 1 or 2 schools. I don't know how much is in Gainesville, because a lot of people I talk to are outside the area. When I started looking at this program, what I wanted to do and how I wanted to approach it. So I got, like, a few different things from different teachers. Matter of fact, it was kind of weird, the 2 teachers that I actually called and talked to were actually at FACTI, actually directing classes. It was just like, I just happened to talk to the better one, the ones that really started. So, yeah, I don't know how much they're Gainesville. I do know that Marion County has 1 or 2 schools. And, I don't know about Citrus.
Pay your dollar, Mr. Edison.
I do it.
Go ahead.
Yes, Marion County does have 2 programs. They've worked for 3 years to develop an articulation agreement with Hillsborough County, and so they're sharing that agreement with us, and they took this up. It's really kind of surprising. I really thought it would be easy to find college programs that offer this same type of coursework. Lake City, I'll call Lake City anymore, but still Lake City League, they just have a certificate program in gaming simulation and programming. But Santa Fe, CL, none of the locals do. So we'll be going out to Hillsborough County for our articulation agreement for these young men. I've worked with Full Sail, which is a private, and they will not articulate with us. I guess that's what you get to do when you're private, right? So, but anyways, like they have that. I mean, Mr. Wilson, he did all the research on this before he came to myself and Mr. McCarthy to talk about it. Had it all laid out, reached out to other teachers, found out what curriculum they were using. Very passionate. This program is very passionate, and it does meet the requirements that all schools offer some type of computer programming course. It's actually the 3rd course in the program that meets that criteria. A lot more programming next year, guys. So we do offer AP Computer Science in all of our schools, and we do offer coding fundamentals in all of our middle schools. So trying to build that capacity, because I don't really understand coding, but obviously they do, and there's a huge demand for it.
It is.
Excellent. But if I may also, I got permission to share this with y'all. As you know, one of my businesses is a tax return. We're a tax preparation company. We have a gentleman, we do his taxes every year, and he works for a company you've heard of called Google. He doesn't live out there, he lives right here in Levy County. He has a high school diploma, he is self-taught on coding. Google. He has told me that there had been a program like this, there's no telling what he could do. But he asked me to share with you how much money he made in 2019 working from his house as a computer programmer for Google. $626,000 a year. That ain't bad, boys. So that's just something for you to think about. I think you're headed in. If that's your thing, dude, I need some loan.
That can fund your next one.
Yeah. And when I saw it the first time I called him, I was like, are you serious? No. I was thinking, if you're smart enough to make that kind of money, why do you need me? Okay. So, but yeah, huge money. If that's what motivates you.
Great job.
Great job. I think at this time, we'll take a 4-minute break in case y'all can leave, or if there's people who want to ask any questions, we'll take a 4-minute break. I'll call this meeting back to order. This time, we have our Williston Elementary School ESOL presentation.
I don't think Mr. Buchanan is going to come to
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, good evening. Happy to be here this evening with Jamie Hamlin and Rebecca Childs from Williston Elementary. They are both participants, if you remember, in the Project Stellar grant that we received going on over 4 years ago now. So we're actually in the 5th and last year of our Project Stellar grant, which we received in collaboration with the ESOL department at the University of Florida. If you remember, that grant brought in $2.4 million to our district to be used to support our teachers of ESOL students, English for speakers of other languages, and also our students and families. So we've gained quite a bit over the last 4 years through that collaboration with UF and through the grant. One great thing that's going on now is that the people that were involved in the first part of the grant, because it was divided into 2 sections basically, are now taking courses at the University of Florida to receive PhDs, masters, and a specialist. So we have about 5 people that are getting their program paid for through the Project Stellar grant for PhDs, and we have about 4 that are working on masters through that grant, and 1 person's working on a specialist degree. So Becky's working on a specialist, and Jamie is working on a PhD. So another great benefit of our collaboration with the University of Florida and Dr. Maria Cody. But the excitement about tonight is they're going to talk to you about a new model that they're using at Williston Elementary School for the instruction of their ESOL students. And they call it a community classroom, but I'm going to turn it over to them because they have a lot of great information to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We've put on this presentation a few times. It's apparently gaining some momentum, and a lot of people want to hear about it. So it's pretty much the objective of our presentation is to build awareness of alternative instructional models to meet the academic and social needs of multi-level English language learners in a rural setting. So this is not just newcomers, and it's not just our students that have exited the ESOL program. There are still our students that need support, and just because they get what they need to off the RETA scores and they get their FSA and they exit out of the program, they're no longer on the state, they're still on our watch list basically, and we want to still continue to give them supports that they need to be successful. So this is a little bit about our school, and I think you know a little bit more about it than most people I would be presenting to. So we do we are the 3-5 school in rural Levy County. We feed in from our sister school, Joyce Bullock. We have our ELL students are in an inclusive setting, were in an inclusive setting, should I say, which was the chosen model of our district until we started having some learnings through our Project Stellar classes. So we use our ESOL professionals to support our ELLs, primarily in the classroom with some academic learning, some assessments, and with some implementation of some computer programs. Let's see. We in Williston seem to have the highest population. If you kind of put us together as a K-5 school, Joyce Bullock and myself, then we would have the higher population of ELLs in our district. And this year we increased to school grade of 8. We're proud of this. This is just some overall data. I'm not going to go too heavily into it. It's basically our performance over the last 5 years. And this is our last year's data added into this chart based on our FSA scores for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So this was our combined scores that helped lead us to our B. So we've been making gradual gains. The reason I show you that is to put it in perspective of how our ELLs are doing. So this is our ELL and Hispanics by year. So over the past year, we see some fluctuation. Sometimes we go up, sometimes we go down. It all depends on the numbers of kids and how many we exit out of the program. So when I talk about ELLs, we're talking about the kids that are, we call them LYs in our system. So they're the kids that are getting TESOL support and are being served heavily based on their language acquisition skills.
Tammy, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How do they exit the program?
They have to get a certain score on the WIDA, which they take.
What is the WIDA?
It's not the WIDA, I'm sorry.
No, it's called the Access for ELLs 2.0. It's a state assessment that we have to give to all of our active ELL ESOL students annually, and it tests their English language proficiency in 4 domains of listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And to exit the program, they have to receive a 4.0 on the reading domain and a 4.0 composite score, plus they have to have a proficiency level on the state FSA ELA, English Language Arts or Reading assessment of a level 3 or higher. So they have to meet both of those criteria to exit the ESOL program.
So you can imagine on the Access ELLs, they can sometimes do well, but then on FSA, they don't do well because of the rigor that is involved in that assessment. So this last year, 15% of our ELLs were proficient, and 47% of our Hispanics were proficient. So we definitely see, that's the different categories. There's some kids that are Hispanic that are never have even qualified for a B&B ELL program. So this was our comparative data between Williston Elementary and Levy as a whole. And again, we have the higher population of the Hispanic population. So this is just over the, this is 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And overall, this is our FSA ELA data by grade level. And what I want to point out is when we start talking about the community classroom, I will tell you we started in 4th grade due to the trends in data we were seeing. So in 3rd grade, a lot of our students would take the FSA. They would do well on their Access for ELLs and be able to perform well on that and get a proficient score, and then they exit out of the program. But what happened to them after they exit out of the program, they weren't getting the services that we provide the students that are still in the program. So, and then the test becomes much harder. The test starts talking, asking questions about figurative language and a lot of inferencing, and that is just much more harder for a skill for the students to be proficient.
Is that test ever offered in their Spanish?
Never.
There was legislation
there's
this year
legislation.
that I don't believe got enough traction to get through.
But say a 3rd grader comes in, non-English speaking, has to take FSA, but can't take it in their
It's really
And we have, it's not just Spanish, we have Chinese students as well. So we're trying to, you're trying to build up with everything, and you're trying to give them instruction in their own language, so that you're working at trying to build their comprehension of what they're learning, but then you also need to teach them how to read and comprehend it in English.
On that note, just to follow up on your question, Florida is one of the only states that does not offer state assessments in native language. And we have the 3rd highest population in the United States of ESOL students or ELS.
To me, you're not testing what they know.
That's correct, but talk to our legislators.
Now we have, I will say, we definitely try to get a pulse of where they're at in their own language, because there are students, depending on where they are coming from, their level of education differs. You see a lot more of our Guatemalan students population that they can't read, write, do anything in their own language. So they're really learning from the ground up, like you would, a preschooler or kindergartner coming in to teach them their own language, but yet have the maturity of a 3rd, 4th, 5th grader. So what this led to. So Project Stellar, we had brought to our county in it was probably earlier than 2017. But we really got rolling. They have provided professional development for teachers, administrators. We outreach and collaborated with EL families and had a network with community organizations. When Williston Elementary started, we had the most participants. We started with 9, but we currently have 7 due to some teachers leaving. We had currently have 5 teachers, 1 guidance counselor, and 1 administrator on the team at Project Stellar. And I will tell you, it made for a much more enriching experience because we had a collegial group working together, learning together, and processing the information we were learning from in our classes, and it helped to generate and make plans for our students in our school. So I put this book up here for any administrators if they ever want to read it, but this is where I got my aha of what can we do differently. So this was our why. So I had analyzed, for years we analyzed our data, we analyzed our subgroup data, and for years our second language learners in ELA were not showing growth. They would hit 4th grade, and 4th grade already has a slump in test scores with all of our students, but we saw even more of a slump with our EL students. So we saw a lack of participation in relationships in the school. So the ESOL parents were developing relationships with the aides, but not really relationships with their teachers, because they sometimes couldn't speak the same language or just the comfort level. And in the Hispanic population, they hold the school system in very high regards. Whatever the teacher says goes, whatever you think is best should happen. And so having them as collaborative partners is a little difficult until we could figure out a way to communicate a little bit better with them, not just language barrier, but just customary and culture-wise. So through both professional learning with Project Stellar, I was learning about different models that instructors or administrators can use in their schools. And then I thought back to when I was in Palm Beach County as a teacher, and I'm like, well, when I did teach in a high ESOL population school, the kids did pull out. So it was refreshing my memory. I had kids that went out and got taught by bilingual teachers during my ELA block while I had the rest of my kids. And then they talked about sheltered instruction, where you have a bilingual teacher teaching the kids all day long. You know, they call it dual language programs where students are learning in English and Spanish, both Hispanic kids and students that have a native language of English. So from that, I had some conversations with my reading coach, and I had some conversations with my guidance counselor who's going through Project Stellar with me, talked with Dr. Cody, and other district personnel, had talked to Valerie as well, and we came to the conclusion that we wanted to try an ELL community classroom. So with that, we developed a classroom where I had to be specific in my teacher selection. I had to choose a teacher that was highly motivated. I had to choose a teacher that was highly effective in order for this to happen. From conversations with Dr. Cody, there is a center school in Alachua County that houses their ESOL populated students. And they said even with the differences in that school and tailored to the education of ESOL students, the teachers that are highly effective are the ones that are making the best growth with the kids. So that was a driving force behind that. Student selection was important too. I wanted to have a balanced classroom. I wanted to have low, medium, high, just like a regular classroom. But I wanted to also honor parents that didn't speak English, so they needed some support with communication. We had some students that were ESE in the classroom. We had some students that were intervention, with tiered intervention. We had students that were just proficient, average level students, and we also had some gifted kids in that classroom as well. We developed partnerships with Project Stellar and UF, so they had a lot of involvement in the classroom. And then with Project Salute, which is with the Rural Women's Health Project, that brought in a lot of support to the families that they might need, like health, legal help, financial if they needed it in any way. We provided that classroom with a full-time paraprofessional that was bilingual, and we used a few of the resources that we use currently with our district. We piloted language and literacy, Imagine Language and Literacy in that classroom, and implemented Imagine Math. So it took a little bit of planning and a lot of conversation before we really dove deep into what to do. So I'm going to let Becky take over, but before I do that, I'm going to say I never warned the parents about it. I didn't tell them about it at all. They learned about it the day to meet the teacher, and so Becky, I'll talk a little bit about that.
So I'm also part of Project Stellar and have actually been with Jamie a long time, which is probably the only reason I agreed to do this. Behind every effective teacher is a highly effective administrator that they know will hold them up through anything new. So this was a little scary going in, especially because I don't speak Spanish. I'm not bilingual. But we really, I have seen in the 21 years that I've been teaching in Levy County that our ELL students are often the invisible students in the classroom. So it was really looking at what could we do differently to help them find their voice and their place and honor their first language, not just teach them English, but also help them become more proficient even in their first language so that they're truly bilingual by the time they leave Levy County schools, which is going to give them a competitive edge once they enter the workforce. So we started off with building parent-teacher relationships. We knew that this would not be successful if we did not have the support of our parents. So we started with a Meet the Teacher meeting, and we brought in the support agencies and translators to that meeting for both Spanish and Chinese. We had the PowerPoint in all 3 languages, and we did the meeting specifically at a different time than all the other Meet the Teachers so that we could have all the support of all the different agencies and administration. And really, that was to explain to the parents why we were doing this. We did not want them to feel like we were segregating their children because of their culture or their race. We wanted them to understand that this was based on research that says that building off of their first language would actually help them to gain more proficiency in English in the long run. So we had a lot of questions in that first meeting, but the teachers and having the teachers there, the parents there, the administration there, everyone was on board. We did some parent conferences within the first 2 weeks of school so that we could also follow up with every parent. And luckily having a full-time aide, I had the translation there for every meeting. We sent home parent surveys asking them about what they felt their children were strong in, what supports they needed, how did they feel that they could support the classroom, because what I've learned is a lot of my parents themselves had not completed education past middle school because of needing to go into migrant work. So asking them how would they like to support the classroom, what could they offer from home. I also use the Remind app, which allows me to text them in whatever language they speak. I can type it in English and hit translate, and so that way we could communicate directly instead of going through the paraprofessional, so that they understood their relationship was with me as the teacher, not through a third party. And then we also have made sure that all communication has been given them in their first language. So every letter I sent home was English on one side, Spanish on the other, or English and Chinese. Everything we do as far as study guides, they're given an opportunity to support by providing it in their first language so that they can provide that extra support at home. Then we had to work on building the classroom community because these students, again, they are used to being quiet. They came in and filmed my room for Project Stellar the first week, and they could not get the kids to talk. You could have heard crickets chirp. It was that silent. They were used to having the mindset that if I stay quiet, and they'll ignore me. They won't call on me, they won't ask. Well, the problem is you put them all in the same room. Nope, that's not going to happen. So we started off again, we used student surveys to get them to give input onto what they felt strong about their learning and what they felt that they needed support in. We asked them, what are things that they've enjoyed about their school experience. Most of my class has actually been in a Levy County school since kindergarten, but still did not have that English home support. So still were lagging behind their peers. So we did a lot of team building activities, really building the idea that this is a community. I did away with rules. I came up with 2 expectations: to be responsible and be respectful, and then they wrote the rules. They set the expectations for our classroom, and actually they did a much better job than any rules that I could have come up with. We did profiles on all of our students, so we actually interviewed the parents during the conferences, found out where they were originally from, what kind of education the parents had, how long the students have been in the country, what kind of supports they have at home. So kind of build a profile on each student so we would know how to help them. And then something that was hard for me is I'm old school. I started teaching and we sit quietly in our desk and we have, time that the teacher talks and then the student does. So I had to really change my mindset to collaboration because I needed to get them talking. They weren't going to improve their English unless they were talking about what they were learning. So putting in place a lot of collaborative practices that really built oral language development as well as the academic language. One thing I learned from me, a lot of the teachers that I work with ask, what do you do differently?
The biggest thing is the planning part of what I do. Every lesson is a language lesson. Every test, I analyze it not only for academic language, but for everyday language that my students may not know. Every single lesson I teach has a language or vocabulary component where I am building their understanding of the concepts behind the learning in every subject. In content areas, math, science, and social studies, everything is translated into their first language if they're a newcomer that they've come within the last 2 years, because they need to learn the content while they're learning English. And then students that have been here since kindergarten are getting it in English, but they're also getting academic language in their first language so that we can build their proficiency in both languages. And that took me really looking at test scores, their language acquisition levels from the WIDA, the Access 2.0. It has 3 levels of language proficiency that it gives us from that test, and so classifying what level they're coming in at, and then looking at how can I build them up to the next level of language proficiency. And then also evaluating for cultural bias, and that was an eye-opener to me. I've lived in Levy County for 26 years, and before that I grew up in Gilchrist, so small town, rural world. Did not realize the amount of bias that's in a lot of the resources that we use. Just expecting students to have background knowledge on a lot of topics that if you're not from America, you do not have that background knowledge. Yet we give tests assuming background knowledge, and we think we're testing one thing when really we're testing more than one thing. Like you said, we're asking them to show knowledge without really taking into consideration what do they know, what's their background prior to that. And then we looked at changing instructional strategies. Again, vocabulary, vocabulary, vocabulary. Everything that I do, again, has a vocabulary component. Looking at finding translations or emphasis on cognate, so how does the English word relate to the Spanish word? They have a lot of words that have things in common. Looking at multiple exposures with a lot of activities, visuals, manipulatives, anchor charts, graphic organizers. Everything in my room has a visual component to it so that it really can help students at all levels of language still get the concept that I'm teaching. The challenges that we faced in year 1, and some of them we continue to face in year 2, perception. First, perception of the parents to get over that perception of segregation, but also perception of the community, that we were offering something special to Hispanic students that wasn't being offered to other students. Perception even of the school community on what exactly is going on in your classroom, why are you being chosen for this. Communicating with parents was a challenge, because again, I'm not bilingual, and so coming up with different ways that they could communicate with me directly, because what we had seen is that they were not developing a relationship with teachers, only with the aides, and we wanted them to feel like they were part of the classroom. Another challenge was an influx of newcomers. There was one point where Jamie used my mom, who was the data entry clerk last year at Wilson Elementary, she just retired, to send me emails when I would get new students, because she knew if she told me I might not be nice. Because in January alone last year I got 4 new students in 2 weeks, all from Guatemala. So we had not prepared for that. It made me go over class size, and it was really a challenge that we're all in a groove, and now here's 4 new students that are new to the country. We have varied levels of first language literacy. As Jamie said, they don't always come in with the background that they've completed. They may be entering 4th grade, but because of age, but maybe they only completed through grade 2 in Guatemala. So there's a gap. In fact, I have a student that I got this year that is a Mayan Indian from Guatemala. He's never been to school a day in his life, and he's 10. So I'm teaching him how to write his name and the alphabet and colors and numbers, and luckily I've taught kindergarten through 4th grade, so I'm pulling a lot of that out. And then lack of resources. There's not a lot of programs like this, so finding the resources that are already bilingual, that already provide that support. I am literally building the airplane as I fly it. Time is always an issue. You'll hear from every teacher all the time. So at the end, we did parent surveys at the end of the year, and student surveys to see what did they feel about the first year. From the parent survey, some common themes that we found is the parents felt like they had better communication with the teacher, that they were kept more abreast of what was going on and were able to access information easier, that they felt they had increased participation in the classroom, and that they had seen improved academics on their children, behalf of their children. The student surveys, we had our guidance counselor come in, I left the room, and she did a survey with them They noted that they saw increased confidence, that they no longer felt like they had to be silent in the classroom. They had more opportunities to work with others that were like them. They had made better friendships with their peers and with their teachers, and they felt that they had the support that they needed to be successful academically.
So, where did this lead to? So, okay, there's a lot of things that we wanted. We wanted the students to be participating in class. We wanted our parents to be involved, and we wanted student achievement centers. So, according to our ELA data at the end of the year, and this is every student in our class. So you'll notice that some of them, if you see the programs next to their the student numbers, some say ELL, so they're still within the EL program. Some you'll see have SLD, so they're ESE. Some have 504 plans, and so some don't have anything. There's a gifted as well, and some don't have any programs. So based on that, we looked at the whole class as a whole. What kind of achievement are they making as a whole? Because like I said, those kids that had no label next to them, those were the ones that were really struggling to make achievement gains in 4th grade. So at the end of the year, based on her FSA data, Becky had 60% proficiency and 60% growth with her students, which is phenomenal. So very, very good. So she had 90% math proficiency and 85% math. And she was a reading coach for some years.
But I think I taught math in both languages. So whereas reading, I still had to teach them how to read. With math, I taught them in both languages, so they were able to take the test in English and have enough knowledge to be able to be sufficient.
So our comparison data, when I'm looking at the EL growth, these are when I say LZ, it's a code. So these are the kids that just exited it. Right, exited out, thank you, all the codes. And the kids that are still in the program in 4th grade. The year before, we were 45% in growth, and this year we had 73%, because I had a few kids that were not in the class. So overall, they were much better games than we had seen in the past. So our additions for this year that we took, where we continued implementation of an ELL community classroom in 4th grade. Becky looped up to 5th grade with her students. There were some students that she kept, there were some students that I exited out and went to a general ed classroom. And then we had some students that came in and needed to go to her class as well. We did full Imagine Literacy and language implementation with all of our former ELL students and current ELL students. We used Imagine Math with only our lower language proficient students. We saw better growth with them. We felt that iReady would do a better job supporting them with an instructional as a supplemental for them in math. And then one thing that we had talked about is how to conquer the newcomers coming in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade when you don't know have any language acquisition with English. And so we developed a 30-minute block that all 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade newcomers could go to get intensive phonics instruction from the ground up. And that was taught by my intensive reading teacher, my reading coach, and ESOL paraprofessionals. So all 4 of them had groups, and there were about 20 kids in there. So they had little groups going. They did a whole group lesson and then broke off based on if they needed support in Spanish, because I did also have some students that were not bilingual and needs that were lower in phonics, so they needed to get that support as well. So it helped in both aspects. So one thing that I will say is that we've learned a lot. Right? We've learned a lot. We are proud of what strides we've made with our students. We hope to keep that momentum going. We don't know how this will look next year. I mean, every year is different because we have different groups of students and the population differs. But we are going to keep refining and keep working hard towards that. We are proud of all the hard work our students did as well. If it wasn't for them, right? And the parents too. They were very, very involved. So we're happy about that. I will tell you that Dr. Cody, I'm one of these people that just takes experiments and just says, hey, let's see if this will work. And she said this is one of the things that is unheard of in rural districts. So I think that's why it's growing popularity of people wanting to hear about it. Becky and I are presenting at the NEFECT Leadership Conference this summer. We presented to the NEFECT Noels, thank you, Noels. And then also we've presented in mixed capacity, but
this was also addressed at the Southeastern Regional TSOL in Orlando this past November now. So we are, we like to talk about it because we're proud of it, but she talked about filming. Filming's not done. There's about a 35-minute documentary being done about this whole project. It involves Project Stellar, but also the impact on the school. And Mr. Edison can probably send you the video, but there is a 13-minute video, 15-minute video that's already been shown because for Project Stellar, Dr. Cody takes it to Washington and has to present on the grant. That this video, I don't want to think it's too long. You're going to take
Just give them a taste.
Yeah. You want to take it? Okay. But I will tell you this, when you watch the video in entirety, it's painting the picture of rural schools as a whole, and nothing anybody does is wrong. It's just a matter of what the reality of rural teachers face with the lack of resources they have when they have newcomers coming into their classroom. And so, because we film non-Becky type classrooms and Becky classroom, you can just see the difference, just show the difference. We can give you a little time on this stuff. It follows a family. Several.
Sí, tengo 2 hijos, pero el primero tiene 11 y el menor tiene 9. Y pues están estudiando en la primaria, en la elementary school. Pues les ha costado bastante por el problema del lenguaje y mi hijo mayor es el que más dificultades ha tenido.
¿Viene Chamana?
Yo pienso que sí, ahí le pueden enseñar más. En cambio yo casi no tengo tiempo de estar con ellos. Unas horas nomás, y temprano me voy otra vez. Entonces es un poco difícil.
Mis metas para ellos, quisiera que terminaran al college y tener una buena educación, una buena carrera para poder servir a otras personas y servir como ejemplo, que yo que estoy sola con ellos, que ellos puedan tener mejor futuro o que sea distinto al mío.
The mornings begin the same. The children start their day, and the parents hope that the public school will provide a future for their children.
Good morning, teachers, staff, and students. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We do have the highest Hispanic population in Levy County. We have a lot of working class people who don't have the time to support their children's education because they're too busy trying to support their children.
The town of Williston, Florida is a close-knit community with a population of about 3,000. Traces throughout the area make it clear that this farming town is no longer in its prime. The schools in this rural town are a centerpiece for the community, and Williston Elementary School Principal Jamie Handlin has her challenges. Arguably, Handlin's biggest challenge is providing access to the curriculum for students who are learning English as a second language.
Because there's a lot of kids that are falling through the cracks. A lot of times you'll see kids that are put on computer programs to learn English. The amount of support that child is going to get is very minimal.
Yes, we're following everything to the letter of the law. We are providing the minimum amount of support necessary to meet what expectations are set by the state of Florida. And so the intent of the law was that our students are not getting left behind, but that's not what's happening in our classrooms.
Essentially, the Supreme Court in 1974 ruled that you can't take a child and put them into a regular classroom and not do anything. This violates their ability to access the curriculum.
In rural school districts in Florida, English language learners, or ELLs, are often spread across multiple classrooms with a mainstream teacher. This is known as an inclusion model classroom. Teachers and principals know that most of the ELLs will not pass the Florida Standardized Assessment Test.
Teachers feel some anxiety taking on students who are generating extra work, and I don't have the time for this extra work, and I don't think they're going to succeed, and so there might be some sense of futility. What teachers hear is important is testing. And so teachers do the best they can to meet the expectations that are set for them, which are to maximize returns on data, which in return will improve their evaluations, whereas serving your English learners is generally, I would say, a more thankless task.
Lionel brought his daughter Annabelle here in a desperate search for work. The 10-year-old is part of a traditional inclusion model classroom.
Okay, look at the paragraphs we're focusing
The
on.
teacher is leading a lesson in language arts. Annabelle is given a computer with a mathematics lesson. Other days, Annabelle and another ELL student, Christian, are under the guidance of a fellow 5th grader, who the teacher is counting on to translate and/or teach.
Okay, what are we doing? Do they know all of them? Yeah. They both know all the English words?
I don't know if he does. She does.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is common because of the challenges that teachers face in working in inclusive classrooms. When I see a child that's alone and doesn't know what to do and sort of left there in the classroom, that really bothers me. That's sad.
When I see kids that have made such progress each year, and then they get to 4th grade and 5th grade, and then they start to flounder or don't grow or they're stagnant, that can change their trajectory of their education. I said, well, what if we did something different? I mean, we've been doing the same old, same old. Our students aren't making the gains they need to make. We're actually losing ground with our ELL students, especially when they get to the secondary setting. So, what is it that we could do different?
And she came up with the idea that what if we put together a classroom where we have our former English learners and English learners, but children from similar language backgrounds in the same classroom, and give them the best teacher we can find and the resources that they need to make it work. As a pilot, will that work? Will that really improve learning if we do this for 1 year?
And your number should be 564-312.
Hanlon called upon her longtime colleague Becky Childs to implement the county's first self-contained, sheltered English immersion community classroom with bilingual support. The community classroom is made up of current and former ELL students. Childs, who is monolingual, has the same curricular demands as the rest of the district. However, she will be challenged to differentiate instruction based on language background of her students.
And with this group, they were so used to being quiet that it even made it more challenging because I would ask questions and you could hear crickets in the room. It was so quiet. They're used to, if I don't respond, if I say nothing, then maybe she'll forget that she called on me or she won't ask for me to answer. And I had a whole classroom of students like that who literally didn't want to speak, ever.
How can I find what 6 times 8 is using the numbers that are already here? Angie.
Excellent. So I could do over here 30. What I had to teach them first in here is if you don't know the word in English, say it in Spanish. Then students starting to feel more confident because if they didn't know the word in English, okay, I'm gonna say it in Spanish and someone in the room will be able to tell me what the English word is.
So what are we gonna write in our first box?
It is risky because you're highlighting the difference of these students. You're saying, you all have in common that you're different, but that's a good thing. And we're going to use what you have as an asset.
Esta clase es diferente de las otras que he tenido porque a veces cuando no entiendo algo en otras clases, los años pasados no entendía nada. Como cuando decía la maestra, ¿cómo lo voy a hacer? I feel more comfortable in this class because I can talk the language I came from, like my language, like Spanish. Like forgetting your language and talking another one that's not yours, that just doesn't make sense.
Se ve más motivación, se ve más motivación, los niños más contentos. Y se les facilita más, mi hijo se ha notado más en las notas, que ha mejorado bastante. Y está feliz, antes iba triste.
In third grade, I was getting a little better, and in fourth grade, yes, I'm doing much better.
There is no doubt that teacher Becky Childs created an atmosphere where ELL students were no longer the quiet, virtually invisible children. These days, it's difficult for them to be quiet at all. ELL students displaying more confidence is evident. But confidence is not a measurement the Levy County School District or the state of Florida demand from its school principals and teachers.
This year, my anxiety was a little higher, knowing that this model, that if we didn't have a turnaround of results that could back up the research that we were using, then we may have to reconsider what we were doing.
It's May 1st. Today, fourth graders at Williston Elementary School will go through Florida State Assessment testing, a critical and stressful day for educators and students alike. It will be a long 2 months before test results are made available.
As we got closer to the date that they're going to release the scores, yes, the anxiety level definitely grew, because I knew that what I even was doing this year was dependent on how those scores looked.
Well, I think that overall you should be proud of yourself with these scores because they're phenomenal. When the scores came in, I said yes. I was happy. Like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised about ELA. I didn't, I thought that we'd have not as much proficiency, and have good growth. And then the math has blown me away. And you were 86, I think, on EOC for science.
Very excited to see some 5s. I'm proud of my kids. The fact that they met me halfway and did the work. I'm very proud of them and what they've accomplished.
The Florida State Assessment is a measurement of a student's proficiency in English Language Arts, or ELA, and mathematics. The question types are designed to assess higher order thinking skills and offer diverse ways for students to demonstrate what they know and can do. After a review of the community classroom Fsa Test Scores, proficiency in math was 84%, while proficiency in ELA was 69%. Overall student growth in math was 85%, while growth in ELA was 60%. These numbers were above average for the school and were also above average for the Levy County School District. This year, Williston Elementary will continue with the community classroom model in both 4th and 5th grade and will share results as they become available.
When we continue to allow children to build their knowledge of their first language and learn how to communicate in their first language and read and write in their first language, that becomes a tool for them to simply transfer from what they know in their first language into English. And that's one of the reasons why bilingual programs are so effective.
I've been able to share out a couple of times what we did to make those changes. I think that we were just all focused on just putting the class together. And that's not exactly what happened. That's what people might want to see, is them just being in a class together. But there was a lot more that went on inside that classroom that led to those students growing like they did.
It's let me know that I really still have to dig deeper into how to build on their literacy skills from their first language to make it a reality for them to get that reading growth that they need to be on grade level.
follow those students. So I want to see how they progress and especially see if what we have done at Wilson L will impact them in their secondary.
I am blown away. I did not know about Project Stellar. I am so impressed. I was trying not to cry watching that. I mean, what a rewarding job for you guys to do this.
And we have cried, but they cut it out.
Thank you. I will say we've had, with a little girl in one of those clips, Annabelle, she has, she's gone, she's now back to Guatemala. Because we were trying to, Tim was trying to, the filmmaker, was trying to follow up with her and see how she was doing in 6th grade. And then we had a scare a week ago, and Kimberly, in the film, her mom was detained. And so our scare was what was going to happen, right? She had a 19-year-old sister that was at Wilson Middle High School, who was a junior, and DCF wouldn't give her custody. So then it was up in the air what was going to happen to her, and luckily, mom was released back to the house, and she was able to continue on with things that's normal for her. So, but it's also made us aware that more and more, in emergency situations, that's an emergency situation for us. We have to have a plan for these kids if anything happens. And, no matter what we believe is right or wrong, they're in the middle of it, and we want to make sure they get the support they need.
I think it's an awesome program, but I do have some questions.
Okay.
First of all, on a 10-year-old from Guatemala that has never been to school, what grade do you put that child
In their grade level. The state of Florida law says you have to put them in their grade level.
in? So what would his grade,
So
his her
if
grade
he's
level?
10, he's in 5th grade.
He's in 5th grade. even though
He
doesn't
looks
know
about
about
like he's
that.
6, too. He's really tiny, very tiny.
Even though he doesn't.
That's
And
correct.
I think that's not meant to be derogatory. I feel that's a legitimate question. And I also think these pilot programs are great, and I think they teach us stacks not just for that classroom. I think there's things we could learn to use in other more
Correct.
traditional, just English
Those
classrooms. Or there's things
strategies
to
will
learn.
work well with any student.
Like I really thought it sounds like, and I've harped on this before, so I'm gonna harp on this again. It sounds like you have tremendous communication between the teacher and the parent. It sounds in that classroom, and I think that's something that could go over into a, for lack of a better term, normal classroom that we tend to forget that, yes, these kids need attention, but
We need to put as much effort as we do into communication with
I
our
think-
parents as much as we do in that.
now my next question, I have lots of questions about this. I never have lots of questions, but I have lots of questions. You know what the percentage of our English as a second language kid, what percentage in the county it is?
About 4%.
About 4%, and it's a lot. And we'll,
We have more in Williston than anywhere else.
yeah, and do we know when we can? Is there a plan to make this countywide?
I think it has to depend on population, it's just something that we're doing, but we have that kind of population. And I don't know, like, for instance, I have a good amount of ESOL students coming in next year into 3rd grade, that I may do it in 3rd grade. I've never done it in 3rd grade. This year in 3rd grade, we don't have a big population, so I know next year in 4th grade, we're not gonna have it. But in 3rd grade, it'll be interesting to me to see if it makes a difference, because we've always had decent success in 3rd grade, so we'll see.
And
I don't know the impact of those others.
my last thing is not a question, it is a compliment. I want to compliment you both, thinking outside the box. Too often, the big dudes that have the vast wisdom as to not give these children this test in their own language, those really smart guys, they forget that individuals need to learn individually. We all learn differently. And that's an ESOL kid, that's an ESE kid, that's a Chris Coward genius kid. All those kids have learned differently. If we all line up, I say this all the time, if we all line up at one end of the football field and run to the other end, everybody's going to get there at a different time. Doesn't mean we didn't succeed. And I think it's awesome that you thought outside the box, you took upon yourself to do that, and more people need to do that. And I think the old boys in Tallahassee need to take a look at y'all and go, this is what education in Florida should be about. It's not, okay, everybody's the exact same Anglo-Saxon, Caucasian kid that comes from an affluent background in the middle of the city.
It can look, from the outside eye, it can look like we're doing something that's not okay.
Right, but that's awesome.
But what it means is it means a whole lot more.
That's awesome. And I'm done now, I'm sorry.
I had an experience this past weekend with one of your students, 5th grader. And I call ourselves in the world that we live in outside of the education world. We had about 75 people working from Mexico with us this weekend, and there was no one present at the time to speak English. And one of your fifth graders, his dad works for me, was with him that week. I called him over in the middle, and he translated. I couldn't find the bus driver. So I called him over anyway. He said, Mr. Bryce, the man over there next to the post. What I'm saying, real world, and we still, I still deal with it. I speak a little enough to do, but we have a large population, and I think he's a really good student also. But just real world experience that in the town that we're talking about outside of the education world, where I'm 44 years old, with the opposite side of what you're dealing with, because I don't speak, and we have to communicate.
And that's been a side benefit. Half of my class are safety patrol because they're role models, they're good citizens, they want to be part of the community. So we've definitely seen where they gained confidence that they can actually contribute to our school community and to our community as a whole.
When you have a school function, there's a high presence of the family there. Yes.
They value education.
But there's a trust issue, and I think this is gonna help that with that, for sure. And with a difference, not bad. No.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm not a fan of inclusion, but I am a fan of grouping like this. I'm a fan of grouping the ESE, the special need, the high, again, thinking outside the box, it's just great.
And the driver say Becky's been doing a great job on
I really admire y'all. I think you're doing a fantastic job, and that program is truly touching.
So I have a question.
It's fun to go in that classroom too.
Kind of puts us on the spot here. Would it be, not YouTube spot, so I'm putting us on the spot. Would it behoove us to take a look at those type of students that are in the west side of the county, busing them to where this project has been so successful, and we have buy-in instead of trying to recreate the wheel somewhere else where we may not have a Becky or Jamie that have this. So I know this is something we've never done, so I'm asking you, Superintendent, to look at whether it might be smart in us where we have superstars, and let's play our superstars.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a hard one. For sure. That's great. Has everyone read the minutes for the February 25th meetings? Okay. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve with the change? Hold on. Hear a motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Minutes passed for the February 25th meeting. Consent agenda, I'll start with Mr. Etheridge.
I don't have a lot. I did notice we have a large number of items. Removal of inventory. I just have to ask because it's listed so many times, what is a switch?
Yes. That's one of the pieces of infrastructure that you use to take the outside network connection into the classroom and to the student computers. And as you can see, most of the items on this list are well over 10 years old. So.
Yes. But in today's world, in what they call Tallahassee digital classroom, this is almost $500,000. Would all of this be purchased with digital classroom dollars?
The vast majority of circuits and switches would be yes.
Just from my own knowledge, budgeting or whatever, how long, we say 10 years on a school bus, when we buy a piece of technology, how long do we anticipate it will last?
It's really dependent upon how quickly the technology landscape changes. So,
for example, a Chromebook, 5 years, because after that, they quit updating. So,
We had a retirement, I had 37 years, is that right? Miss Lisa Gant, ex-state drop, started in 1987. She's been with us a long time, and I sure didn't want to go mention last night, there's been a lot of students passed through her classroom.
There's one right there, there's one right here.
Anyway, just want to make notice, make sure you not fall through the cracks. We appreciate dedication and long, I'm sure there's been years there, like others, that she stuck it out, and I appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
I have a Facebook question, that was mine, and just what, as far as disposing of these, is there any, do we get any money in return for any of the parts, or?
To be honest, ma'am, we were very fortunate when Mr. Eastman was able to find us a vendor who was able to take them off our hands without us having to pay to take them.
The only times
Receive money for that?
the only times we do have to pay is if it's the old big computers or TV screens.
Correct.
That's the only thing we'd have to pay for. The rest of it's we.
Another nice thing about this vendor is that they do give us a certificate of destruction for all the hard drives, so we can be sure that we don't have any information that's out there that could be subject to identity theft.
Thank you.
Mr. Ashby?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm thrilled to death to see a couple things on here that I would point out. I'm thrilled to death to see that Stephanie Watson moving from to the district groundskeeper head custodian at Bronson Elementary School. She always does a good job, and I think that's a great thing. The other thing, I always like to see the Bronson Middle High School ESE class going to SeaWorld. A lot of times we think those trips are just fun. That's an actual, if you've never been on that, that's really a kind of cool thing. We take for granted our ability to go places and our ability to do the simple parts of life. And for those kids to go to a theme park, they have to take their own money, and it teaches them how to deal with the crowd, how to make change, how to do those things. And so it's more than just going to see a Chan movie. It's a cool outing for those kids that work really hard for it. And I think that's great to see them there. And I knew what the switch was, because I had called.
Mr. Coward?
I'll go kind of piggyback off Mr. Etheridge, and tell a funny story about Miss Gant. Miss Gant was my English teacher and Miss Lake's English teacher back in the day at Bronson Middle High School. And a funny aside story is her house was used in the filming of Doc Hollywood with Michael J. Fox. And so one day, because of her house being in the filming of that, so there was a group of us in Bronson Middle High School that got to go and be extras in the movie. So that's because, so that doesn't have anything to do with testing, and we didn't learn anything about Shakespeare, but, you know, we did get to walk around and act and kind of see Michael J. Fox play a hometown doctor at a small town, so just a nice aside. So appreciate all her efforts, and she served JBS well and served Levy County well through those years. So good to see Miss McCain. So she's done a jam-up job as the Cedar Key, one of our teacher aides for ESC, and moving into that data entry. Just wish her the best there and appreciate that. And I know a lot of times we've had in the past where we've had teachers that leave in the middle of the semester, and I just appreciate the people that are on this list. They are here through the semester, and that's nice that they put kids first and that they made those decisions. So appreciate them and wish them the best of luck. And I would love for Ms. Wilda to come and tell us about her coding, the vocational, the computer science. So if we can possibly do that, kind of piggyback off what we have with Bronson Middle High School and see something. So love seeing these trips and people going and getting professional development. So.
Thank you. Along with trips, Mr. Edison, I know that we approved last consent agenda that we had a chief on high school group going to Italy. So can you kind of update us on that?
And we actually had two groups.
Right, two, I'm sorry.
Well, the one was outside of school, one was inside of school, but I can tell you both trips have been postponed until the summertime. So we don't have anybody involved.
Thank you very much. And I had some of the same questions about the switch too, and Mr. Edison helped me out on that. And I didn't know, it was one of my questions too that Ashley had about, where the inventory was going and what was gonna happen to that. So, it's always good to sell it, but, at least we didn't have to pay to get rid of it, so I'm glad to hear that. I think all of my other questions have been answered as well. Do I have a motion to approve our consent agenda? I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda passes. Mr. Edison, do you have any comments for us?
Just a few things. You have on your desk, it's fair time, and I want to give a couple of y'all, we'll tee up for a few of you here today. But as you can see, we, as the board, we always go together and buy them. And as you look at this, I believe it's Wilson's turn. Yeah. And so, did you want to talk about this, Ms. Curtis?
Yes, it is Williston's turn, and I think that we'll all be there. Mr. Edison had asked if, that we all have groups that we go in, and Cameron's great on his advertising his response group. But we have Chief and we have Williston group and everything. But I really feel strongly about a school board member buying it, and as our group together. So, Mr. Etheridge, I know you'll be there.
Sure.
So will you buy that animal for us?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so very much. We appreciate
Tell
that.
me what the bid price should be. Yes. Absolutely.
But then, so yes, we always do that together, and very, very happy to support our students.
One other thing is I was approached this week, and last year we had there's a little rodeo that goes on. The school board last year purchased an ad in this flyer, so I just want to see, and I know it's kind of changed. It's RBA in class of 2020, and I know they're going to give some scholarships out from this. Last year it was the chief and FFA alumni was the sponsor. And so my question to you is, do you all want to add this? I think it's $100.
What's RBA?
Renegade Rodeo Scholarship. So it's RBA. So that's what it goes to.
Is that Carter's?
Yes, sir. So that's up to you.
It was $100, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good. All right. I'll take care of it.
I have a comment before we vote on that. I think it's great, and I, personally put ad in there, and it was, I think last year when we put the ad in, it was because it was for our FFA students. And I like that we support our students, and it was an organization that we all are happy to support. It's a change this year, and I want everybody to be aware that it is a change.
It's not the chief and FFA alumni.
It's not the chief and FFA alumni. So,
Chief of that way, alumni, I've done it already for years.
but they're not doing it. Yes, they have done it. They've done it at Carter's, and I think this year maybe they did a cornhole, they did a different event. So they did not, but this company's doing it independently and doing that. But I just, I want to bring that out. Just
Money being raised is going to students, or is it going to the private?
It says on here, $2 $1,000 scholarships. That's what appropriate, right?
To be presented at academic night or just somewhere.
I got that chief.
What's the deadline?
The deadline is the 20th. This month.
I don't think that's an action item.
No, I just, it's,
You don't have to take a
if you want to do it, I'll do it. If you don't, I won't.
Just like board members can individually indicate.
Sure. Just let me know what you want to do.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Also, I know there's a chance for a lot of going right. This is a lot of competitions going on, beat competitions, workout competitions, etc. And of course, you got the fair coming up next week. So I know, I've seen Facebook full pictures. so, but it's a good time to be a student. And Lincoln County does a lot of work out right now. So I'm sure some of you will talk about it. One of the things that we talk about quite a bit, and around here is it's COVID-19 is what everybody calls it. A lot of people call it coronavirus, but there's a lot of coronaviruses. COVID-19. I will tell you, you go to leakydisaster.com, which is our emergency management webpage. Excellent resource. Excellent resource if you want to find out the latest on it. I have conference calls probably 3 times a week to find out what's going on. And so we're monitoring the situation. Matter of fact, Jeannie Norris called me while I'm sitting in the board meeting here to just make sure that we're up to date on everything. And so right now there is very minimal threat to our students and everything that's going on. We're practicing the basic techniques that we would do normally for flu season and anything else that we do. And so we'll keep going on. I know there's a lot of schools and colleges in particular that are doing some different things. So right now we're just working, doing our business. So I don't have any questions specific.
What is the plan? If someone exposed to corona or someone has, when school shut down?
Well, we're not there yet. I mean, I know that it depends upon what happens. And if you'll go to that website, they'll talk you through all the different scenarios as far as anybody that goes. But we're having conversations within the district, what would we do if this happens? And so we are preparing for something that we never did. And so I don't know exactly what that will be until we get there. But we're preparing to see what happens. There's a lot of questions and a lot of what ifs. And until you have to make those decisions, it's to react to whatever the situation is. You don't know what it is. All you do is speculate. But we're speculating on a lot of different scenarios.
Who has one to say on that? Us or Department of Health, Health
The
Department?
final word on any of this stuff is Department of Health. They already meet in the state of Florida.
And luckily, that's part of a lot.
Correct.
Can I ask a question? Are you testing for COVID-19 or?
We don't do any of the testing.
Who does?
Department of Health. We're not equipped to do that.
But is anybody doing that or is anyone being
Go on that website, you can see all the information and statistics on that.
We'll swab you on the way out.
What?
We'll swab you on the way out.
Yeah, don't do that, no. I just wondered if you're testing, if health department's testing students.
Why would they test a student? Let me ask you that.
I don't know, you tell me.
No, I'm asking you, why would we test a student?
If a student is sick.
No, you wouldn't test a student if they're sick. You would test a student if they were around somebody that has been sick, or if they've come from a country where they're like Italy or China. So if they've been around where somebody's been exposed, you test them, but you don't test them just because they're sick. Now, if they go in and do the symptoms of it, then they would. But just because people get sick all the time, but unless there's a reason to be exposed to the virus, the flu's the flu. Right. So, but if you want to get the COVID-19, you've got to be around somebody.
Well, have you had any students in that category that have been around students?
Not to my knowledge. Right. But if you go to that website, and they will talk you through, and you can see all the different measures, that if you're around somebody that is, what happens. The precautions out there, and the Department of Health is the lead on this.
Thankfully, none of us were at the Florida House yesterday, so we should be good. Here we go, so.
But that's it, you've got to be around somebody that has it, and get it. It's not around, because you don't get it working on the farm.
I was just curious, there's a lot going on with COVID-19 as far as, nationally.
Right.
You got 5,000 students, 5,500 students here.
Right.
And they're close proximity to one another. I was just wondering, if there's anything going on.
And I think there's 12 in the state of Florida that have been tested, and I think there's 22 million people.
14 now.
14. And there's 22 million people in the state of Florida.
14 total people.
In the state of Florida.
Confirmed.
And you
All
can,
predominantly in South Florida, correct?
well, no, sir, you can go look. There's Panhandle, Volusia County, and the rest of them are south. But the website will tell you exactly where they're at.
You talk about the ELC website,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
No, we don't go around testing students. So, that way, we give them the FSA test.
Any other comments?
Yes, two others. Ms. Perkins and I sat through a financial audit the other day, and we will get the results of that soon, but it was an excellent financial audit. And last week, I got the entrance paper for our next round of financial audits. Okay, so, okay. And also, we had the first time since I've been around, and we actually had an on-site CTE audit. And if you've been following everything, the governor's requested audit of all the CTE programs. She's not here, she's left already. Ms. Jones did an outstanding job. And I really think, I don't think I know, the two ladies that were here were highly impressed about going in our classrooms and seeing what the kids are doing. You know, it wasn't just a matter of seeing a lathe or a piece of machinery or something like that. When they went in, they saw kids doing stuff. And so that really, just an outstanding exit. So, any questions on any of those things? Okay.
All right, thank you very much. We'll start with board comments, and I'll start with this one, Mr. Kelly.
All right. As of now, so all communications, and talking about funding for K-12 are kind of enveloped in the dark with four people. That would be the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, and the two Appropriations Chair, Senator Bradley, and on the House side, Representative Cummings. Been in constant contact with Representative Stone and Senator Bradley and Ms. McDougal, other people up there. And as far as things have been, there's been nothing communicated to me that would be negative or anything that would throw up any alarms as far as the chief of the high school project. Now, as far as the regular ed budget, it's looking like a $18 increase in the base student allocation, which, for those of you that are following at home and playing this game, our increased FRS contribution this year will be the likelihood of $75. So, I'm not a mathematician, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express one time, $75 out of our budget general fund versus an increase of $18 and change. So, you guys do the math. So it's very, very discouraged at this time. Really went into this legislative session with a lot of optimism. The governor proclaimed this was the year of the teacher, and we were going to increase teacher salaries to $47,500. And I don't believe that we will get to that level unless you take a across-the-board average from Pensacola to Key West, and you can imagine what salaries may be in Key West, but also what those people have to do to try and find housing and whatnot. I say all this to say that I believe that, which there is in every budget cycle, that more so than ever, there will be the haves and the have-nots. And public education, especially rural public education, will suffer. I am on my soapbox. You can quote me. There is a war on public education. And you have to decide which side of the line you're going to be on. 90% of our students in the great state of Florida are in either a traditional or a charter school, which is a public school. And day in and day out, people like Ms. Childs provide that education to those people. It's very disappointing. disappointing. That the people that are in power, that can control the purse strings, are not recognizing. I think they are recognizing one thing: they pumped the brakes because of this coronavirus outbreak. It's put a lot of things on hold, and I think that is affecting the budget process this year extremely. I think people, and when I say people, I mean Senator Bradley, Chair Cummings, the Speaker, and the President of the Senate, are anxiously taking a look at what the calculations on sales tax and tourism and what those are going to do. I know all four of those men are smart men, and I hope they'll do what's right for our children. And with that, I'm going to end on a positive note. Last week, we had a school record in the pole vault in Cedar Key, won Mikey Beckham, and just a tip of the cap to him. I don't know the exact feet, but I want to say it was somewhere around a little over 12 feet that he went over the pole vault. And as a short fella, that's a long ways. So, and not to steal Mr. Etheridge's thunder, I was able to go and watch yesterday in a Williston Middle School ag classroom, the FFA secretary, the National FFA secretary for the FFA organization, a young lady out of Oregon, do a presentation, and it was for an 8th grade class, and I got to collaborate with 3 8th graders, and I highly suggest, if you haven't gone and volunteered or been in one of our classrooms, take the opportunity to do that. Ms. Childs and Ms. Hamlin talked about students kind of just blending into the background. I had one student that I was born in Mexico. I had one student, rather than 2 other students that were not, but all 3 of them were kids that if you weren't careful, they could slip through the cracks and they could just blend in and be wallflowers. And I think there's a lot of kids like that. And I know that mental health is a big issue. But just a little thing as a teacher giving a pat on the back and a teacher showing that you care. So once again, I tip my cap to you, Ms. Childs, and appreciate your efforts and say thank you to you. And with that, I'm finished.
Thank you. Mr. Aswell?
I don't have nearly as much as you. I have been preoccupied at work, so I'm a little slack right now. And I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by this. Bronson had a student representing Levy County at the state spelling bee. And the part that I'm embarrassed about is I wrote her name down and I forgot it on my desk. What? I knew it was a rhyming name. That's the best I could come up with, and I appreciate her. And we're real proud of her. She came up a little bit short, but she did a great job. Had a great experience. I've already spoke the praises of the FBLA, and I'm absolutely amazed at how many people are doing so well in that, how many they're taking to state competition. It was fascinating to see, if you ever look at Facebook, all the kids that had won medals in this. And there was good, I know there were some Williston kids in that too, and some Chiefland kids in it, and it's amazing, these vocational programs that are doing so well. And of course, with the fair coming, we will see our kids at their best. That is, with the fair, it's going on right now. It's amazing to see kids over there. I think there's several of us that participated in the fair when we were kids. It's a whole lot different than when we were kids. It's a lot bigger now. But it's amazing. And if you get a chance to go, you'll see some interesting things at the fair. So I encourage people to get to one of the fair. The only other thing is he's not back there now, but I want to compliment Mr. Masters. He's brought his assistant tonight, and the really cool thing is he is actually better behaved than Brandon, and I was impressed with that. So I appreciate you bringing that young man up. That's all I have. I'd love to tell you I was on the soapbox with you, but I agree with you 100%. I'm done. Ms. Ashley.
I'll climb up on the soapbox because I'm obviously the new one on the board, and I just find I'm just blown away. It's insulting that we have to beg for money for this school that is absolutely falling apart. Like, just the whole system is just, the fact that you're talking about raising teacher salaries, in the same conversation, you're also talking about cutting teacher units. Like, it's, the push and the pull is just mind-blowing to me. And I know, Ms. Lake, I know we work very hard with the resources we have, you specifically, but it's just, it's insulting and discouraging. Off that. Yankeetown is competing in the small animal competitions for the first time this year at the Swanee River Fair. They've had large animals in the past, and they're going to have a swine this year also. And something neat that the kids are doing is the 4th and 5th grade have been taking their science lessons down to the Withlacoochee and doing hands-on science experiments, which I think is just the best way to learn. So, not to steal your thunder on one other thing.
I don't have any thunder, so y'all go ahead.
But WMHS had Your Future Is Now night the other night. A little disappointing in the parent turnout. I heard it was better than last year, but the teachers and staff did a great job providing scholarship information, dual enrollment, AP, CTE information. So it was just a really, a lot of people put a lot of hard work into that night. And on a personal note, I just want to thank everybody for their calls, their cards, their emails, their texts regarding my son last week with his animal and the Swanee River Fair, which beef is on the menu for a while in our house. But I just really want to express my appreciation to all of you. It meant a lot. Prayers were felt, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brewers. I don't have a lot. I appreciate the film a while ago, and if we could just edit a little segment of that, because we called it a documentary, and the documentary should be factual, but the documentary said that we're in a small town beyond its prime. I'm not sure if there was a way to look at that, because I don't believe that. The rest of it I believe, but the documentary should reflect that kind of couple of our old buildings that are beyond their prime. But we have new ones too, so anyway, I couldn't let that. Miss Hannah texted me in the middle, and she said she could see my facial expression when they said that, so I couldn't pass that on. Right. This is a busy time of the year for sure. Fair started 2 weeks ago, but to go over last weekend and watch Clover buds with their rabbits and chickens and the start of that, then the heifer show all Saturday, and the dairy show Saturday, all the things that are to come this coming week. And it's amazing how much of our community is involved with all segments of that. And not only from the learning aspect, it's a huge part of our economy. I mean, it's these kids inject a lot in our economy in these projects they do and invest a lot. And then in return, which always amazes me, because we say we have no industry in Dixie and Gilchrist County, and for somehow, way, some form, fashion, next Wednesday, unless something that changes majorly, the people will show up and donate $1 billion to these kids in one day. And I don't expect it to be any different. It really makes us neat that the community supports the kids, because we watch it, and somebody said a minute ago, a lot of us have grown up through that. I do what I do today because of that fair, and that's the interest and struggle. So it's dear to me, and I think so. Livestock judging, Strip, I'd always said the worst thing you could ever do is place second. And I've coached the middle school livestock judging team in Williston for I think 12 years now. And we went and competed last Friday in Plant City with about 71 other teams. Placed third. 3 points out of first place. Out of about 1,900 points. So anyway, it's been kind of sit and sulk all week long because those kids came that close to having that forever. And so we're having a big powwow come tomorrow about it's okay not to feel good when you lose. And that's part of life lessons. And those kids have worked really hard. And they have a lot of years ahead of them to go at it again. But to come that close, probably one of the most, at the middle school level, one of the most active competition. So anyway, we'll shoot for it again next year. If we did beat Chief on those groups.
Oh, okay. They all worked hard.
Right, that's right. Mr. Coward and I had the opportunity last Wednesday. Was that last Wednesday? Yeah, to come judge OH demonstrations. And to be honest with you, I've been a part of FFA for a long time. They called me to ask me to judge OH demos. I don't know anything about horticulture. I don't mean, so I'm totally out of it when we get here. Probably one of the best contests that I've ever been to for FFA and watch young kids, middle school, all the way to seniors. I was in the marketing division, so I don't understand all the rest of it yet, but actually a kid to come in and have a product. We had 2 middle schoolers sell me swamp cabbage fritters. And so, yeah, they presented, they had them on the restaurant, they had their menu and the price and who their competitors were and what the market was for their product, and they sold it for 10 minutes. And then I had a young lady who's a sophomore sell me peanut butter concentrate. I don't know if you've ever heard of PB2. Anyway, smashed peanuts in a little can, you can add it to whatever, it tastes like peanut butter. But the knowledge that these kids have learned and the asset to learn, a lot of these kids growing up in sales one day, some of us do now, but the asset, the base that they're learning is through our extracurricular activities that we have in Lincoln County. And I don't care what anybody says, we have some of the best in the country in this county. And I'll end with that.
To piggyback on Mr. Andrews there, I got there and I think I was supposed to judge marketing too. However, one of the judges couldn't make it, so I ended up being one of the judges for the artistic arrangement. And so, as I said to Ms. Smith at Bronson FFA, are you sure that's where you want to put me? So, but anyways, it was quite, I got an education myself, so, and would have never thought, it's awesome. We had, I should have said this before, so, but Amanda Robinson, so presented how to preserve those flowers, like flowers from homecoming and whatnot, so she was the winner in the artistic arrangement, so, but then there's also a couple girls from Rainford, I think, that made a cutout dog, a corgi, and stuffed flowers, and that was pretty unique too, so they were all over the board, so one thing, so, but, so if you need something artistic arrangement, don't ask me to do it, but I can judge it for you, so that's where I came from. Sorry.
Sure that you have anything else?
Okay, that's it.
Okay, great, thank you very much. And my comments are all related to most of the things you said too, and the fair, and coming up, and it really has been a long-standing fair, and, you know, I hear inside, outside, a lot of it at home too, what's happening. Yes, Terry?
This is a question for Chris, he's legislative.
Yes, sir.
What happened to the bill that's supposed to put term limits on, for school board members on ballot? Did that die or pass?
Well, Mr. Terry, last Monday at 12 o'clock, the Senate Rules Committee met, and at 12 o'clock, they didn't think they had votes, so they temporarily postponed it. And 5 hours later, that committee was still meeting, so it passed out of the rules 9-8 with one Republican siding with the Democrats. So it has not come to the Senate floor. It's passed the House, but it has not passed the Senate floor. It has to pass the Senate floor by, there's 24 senators, and they have to have 18 votes. And there's 17 Republicans. So we're holding our breath. So that's where it's at.
I thought the session was supposed to end on Friday.
It's supposed to. However, the session's going to be, I say it's going to, more than likely, the session will probably end next week, because the last thing that I heard was maybe Friday or Saturday, they would get the budget, and once the budget is presented, there's a 72-hour cooling off period, so you have to wait. So they're going to have to come back unless something happens here in the next 2 days, that, even then, they're going to have to come back.
Are you saying that there was a raise that was passed for the teachers? There was No?
It is not, they're in budget negotiations right now. So the way it works is the House has presented so on Saturday, they have what we call budget conferences. And so they go through and the Senate has a select of people and the House has a select of people. They met at 1 o'clock. The 1 o'clock meeting was basically, they alternated this year. We selected the chair, which was the House side. So chair of the for the budget is Representative Cummings. The vice chair is Senator Bradley. They met and did that at 1 o'clock on Saturday. They came back about 6 o'clock. The House presented so the governor's budget was $900 million for teachers' salaries. The House presented their offer at $500 million. The Senate presented at $600. So no agreement, kicked to the next day. On Sunday, or no, I think nothing really happened Sunday. They did meet with nothing. On Monday, the House presented again. Here's 500. And the Senate said, how about 650? So, as I said, things have gone dark, and there's 4 people that know what's going on right now with the budget. That would be President Galvano in the Senate, that would be Speaker Oliva out of the House, and that would be Chair Cummings out of the House, and Chair Bradley out of the Senate. Those are the 4 people, and right now they are a little bit incommunicado.
Bottom line is we won't know what happens until it happens.
On Saturday, so, I mean, I've been in constant contact with Senator Bradley, so that was through the weekend. And then come Monday afternoon, things have gone dark.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
No, sir, not really, so.
That's the way it happens every year.
Happens every year.
Yep.
I mean, so the idea is, our project's in Pico, and so that's the good saving grace on that. If you look on one side of things, if you look at years past and past practice, if they funded every project, which is Gilchrist getting their final year of their project, Baker County, which was ranked number 1, Levy, which is 2, and Bradford, which is 3, I believe it's like 54 million. It's around there. Don't hold me to that number, but roughly. And in years past, that's an easy number that they have funded in special facility. That being said, I honestly believe that there is great hesitation with the way of what's happened with the coronavirus, and that has the reason why. They are desperately trying to forecast what the revenue projections are going to be in the next year to make sure that things are good.
And my final comments, which I had to mention, is that we are extremely proud of Chris that always keeps us up to date on that. We all get updates and we get the information, but Chris does stay in constant contact and with legislators, and we do sincerely appreciate that. So I'm very, very thankful for that. And I also am very thankful for our presentations we had tonight. They were great programs from both schools, and truly, truly happy to have them here. And before we end, I'm going to ask Cameron if he will repeat his comment, because if someone might have been outside, if you'll just tell it before we end our meeting, please.
Mr. Masters, I am so proud that you have supervision tonight, and that young man has behaved better than Brandon. Who is that young man? This is Brody. How are you, Brody?
Good.
Would you like to come speak to us? Come on down, buddy.
He's been a great guest tonight.
Come on, tell us all about how you feel about it.
Mr. Masters, would this be okay?
Candy?
Yeah. Brody's going to tell. All right, I didn't think you'd take that one. How's it been, Brody? Good. Now, what is your connection with Mr. Masters? Who is he to you? Pretty good grandpa? Yeah. All right. All right. Has he been behaving today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Brody, I saw you reading a book back there. What were you reading? Oh, lots of books. Wow.
And how old are you?
7 years old.
7 years old? Very good. You have great presence, my man.
We are proud of you, Brody.
Brody, would you like some candy?
Brody, you must take after your mom.
Thank you, Brody.